Thank you.
Evan, if you're Mulford at Mulford at Linden, you're almost a neighbor of mine.
Oh, yeah, Dave. An email a couple hours ago, an hour at least. I didn't get anything back, so. We have to come on over this summer or vice versa. How's Miss Angela Fellers doing this evening?
I'm great this evening, Mr. McCarthy. How are you doing?
Doing okay. I was just mentioning to Patrick, just fighting a migraine today because of the weather.
Oh, yeah. That happens to me in the spring too. Is the pollen count hurting you as well?
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's been torture, but whenever there's a change in the pressure, then it affects me more so.
All right, folks, we're gonna call the order of the meeting here. If you allow me. Today's Winnebago County Public Works Committee meeting, Tuesday, May 18th, 5 p.m. by way of Zoom. Presence myself, Dave Tassoni, Kevin McCarthy, Bert Girl, Angela Fellers, David Kelly. We have Jim Webster by way of speakerphone. We have our administrator, Patrick Thompson. We have our Assistant State's Attorney, John Gilberti. We have our County Engineer, Carlos Molina. And I see Frank Codina is online, and may I ask who Roger Thompson is?
Yeah, Mr. Tassoni, Roger Thompson, the consultant that is going to be talking to you for a few minutes about that facility assessment study that we want to do for the highway department.
Okay, I do recall that now. I just didn't know if he was here for public comment. So we'll forego the language of public comment at this time, and I would ask for approval of our April 13th, 2021 minutes.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Feller, seconded by Mr. Kelly. Any corrections, comments, deletions? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Okay, it's all approved there. Okay, moving forward to our legislation. Our first item of business is Resolution 21-011. It's a resolution authorizing the award of a bid for bridge deck sealing, various locations throughout the county. It cost us $27,499.88. I would so move.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Girl and Mr. Webster. Carlos, would you like to give us some detail on that?
Yeah, thank you. What this is just a maintenance. It's a maintenance project, something that we started doing a year or two ago with our newer bridge decks, and it just extends the life of our decks on bridges. It's a one-time thing that we do, and it's a pretty good price that we received for this. We're doing 4 bridges with this project.
Mr. Kelly.
Thank you, Chairman. Hey, Carlos, what's the life expectancy of the sealed bridge deck?
Right, Mr. Kelly. Yeah, thank you. It's actually a one-time thing that you do when the deck is still in pretty good shape, so we don't have to do it again. So accordingly, it should last the life of the deck.
I have a question.
Yeah, Mr. Kelly has a follow-up, then Mrs. Fellers.
Life of the deck, which is how long?
Well, bridges in the past were designed for at least 50 years. Nowadays, the state would, has a new design policy where they should last up to 100 years. But as you well know, a lot of the structures go way beyond the life expectancy.
Ms. Fellers?
I have 2 questions. The first is, does this maintenance or this product, does it replace any other kinds of maintenance, such as like painting or I'm just curious what it is that it does. Is it like a sealant of some sort so that I understand? And my second question is, the application of this product, is that a prevailing wage job?
Yeah, thank you. The second question, it is a prevailing wage job. Every project that we bid is prevailing wages. And two, no, it doesn't replace anything. We do not paint bridges. We do paint the steel beams and bridges, but that's part of the superstructure, not the deck. This is just a sealant, like you said. It prevents moisture and get into the concrete in the deck.
Great. Thank you for that clarification.
You're welcome.
Okay, was there anybody else out there with any questions, comments regarding this item? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, resolution is approved. Next item is 21-012. It's a resolution authorizing the award of bid for 2021 PCC patching program. Cost of $99,797.10, and I would so move.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Fellers. Mr. Molina would like to speak to this, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Tassoni. This is another maintenance, project that we are doing nowadays more than what we have done last few years, just because we got a little bit of more money. And this is a concrete patching, and there's the different locations. I know we're doing Elevator Road. We're doing some on Perryville Road. By no means this is all the patching that we need to do, but it's just we select some areas that need it, and that's what we're doing with this project. The prices are actually pretty good. We had five contractors that bid on the project, and Stenstrom & Sons was the low bid. Prevailing wages again.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments on this item? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Okay, the resolution is approved. Next item is 21-013. It's a resolution authorizing the award of bid for the 2021 Township Seal Coating Program. No cost to the county, just pass through dollars, and Mr. Molina's department manages those funds. I would so move that item. Second by Mr. Girl, Mr. Webster. I think we're all pretty familiar with this one. Township funds are passed through, and just based on legislation, the highway department manages those funds. Is that correct, Mr. Molina? Would you like to speak to it?
Yeah, that is correct.
Okay, any questions, comments on that item? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the resolution is approved. Next item is resolution 21-014. It's a resolution authorizing the award of bid for bulk rock salt. We see their total cost is $2,468,000 and some change. Winnebago County's cost is $1,152,000. That relates to $76.85 per ton. I would so move that item. Second by Mr. Girl, and Mr. Molina would like to give us some detail on this, please.
Yeah, thank you. For those of you who have been in the board and in the committee in the past, about this time, of the years when we go out for bids for salt for the following year. We do have our shed is full of salt right now, but we do have to plan for the future, and that's why we do it now. Now, we always try to do it just before the state goes out for bids on theirs, because by experience we understand that we can get at we'll get a better price, and also we'll be guaranteed that we will have a supply for the winter. The price of $76.85 per ton, it's about $2.15 less than what we paid last winter, which was $79 a ton. Our cost is, as Mr. Tassoni said, is $1.1 million. But the contract for almost 2.5, and that's because other local agencies go in with us in this bid.
Okay, any members have comments or questions on that item?
Yes, I just have a question, Mr. Molina. Just curious, from this past winter, how are the reserves? Do we have plenty in reserve? Were we going, cutting close to things, or how did it work out this season?
We were, Mr. McCarthy, thank you for the question. We actually were just, I want to say about $5,000 to $10,000 over than what we had in the contract. But again, it's there's a good reason for that, and that's because we always want to start our next winter with a full shed. So right now we have in reserves about 8,500 tons in different locations where we keep salt.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to learn about that and see where we stand. Thanks, Mr. Molina.
Right. Any other board members got questions, comments on that item? Oh, Mr. Kelly.
Well, just a comment, that we, just to clarify, we do pool the order with the townships and anybody else that wants to participate to try and increase the quantity, which decreases the price.
That's right.
All righty. Any others on that item? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the resolution is approved. Next item is resolution 21-015. It's a resolution authorizing the execution of an engineering services agreement with Effective Management Decisions LLC to conduct a facility space needs assessment for improvements at the Highway Department's maintenance facility. And I would so move.
Second.
And seconded by Mr. Girl, and I will just give it just a little bit of an intro and then turn it over to Mr. Molina. But maybe for some of the new members, and just a refresher for some of the existing members, past, present. If you've been to the Highway Department ever and went over to their grounds over there and looked out back, it appears to me at a glance 80–90% of their equipment, somewhere in that range, sits outside in the gravel parking lot, and it's been that way since the beginning of time. And basically, we've had discussions over the years, and I know I've talked to it with the past engineer, Mr. Vanderwerf over there, about the need of a building to house this equipment. Things sitting out in the elements and whatnot, and just the sight of it and all that. So this resolution just brings forth Effective Management Decisions to do a study and see what type of facility they would need and what kind of accommodations would go along with that. And just with that brief intro, I'll turn it over to Mr. Molina and Mr. Thompson for further notations on that item.
Thank you, Mr. Tassoni. And you're absolutely right. We have been planning and talking about this for quite a few years. Unfortunately, we never seem to have the money to do this. But just to remind everybody, one of our plow trucks, it's a $200,000 investment. We have 27 of those, and a good majority of them sit outside. So what we've talked about in the past is the need to be able to house all our equipment and plow trucks, on the roof, in a warm environment to extend the life of this equipment. But it would be foolish of us to just go in and say, hey, let's just put a building, out in the back, so that we can do this. So the right thing to do would be to look at our facility and to look at our needs, including the shop and the mechanics shop, and see what we need so that when we plan for the future and budget for the future, we can do it in a smart way. So that's where Mr. Thompson and his company come in, because they are the experts, and they have done quite a bit of work in the last 20 years plus, and similar type of work. So that's why we're bringing this agreement to you. And now I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Thompson, Roger Thompson, to explain better what they're able to do for us.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Molina. Wonderful to see you all tonight. And Mr. Mr. Thompson, I don't think you're any relative of mine, but I live up in Wisconsin.
Yeah, full disclaimer, no relation.
I started my career about 34 years ago, and mostly working with the Manitowoc, city of Manitowoc. I was equipment superintendent for them. I later moved on to the city of Appleton and became the superintendent there. And a company by the name of DMG Maximus was trying to sell a fleet management study of my operation. And I told them what I was doing in Appleton, and lo and behold, they hired me. And I started my travel career doing mostly fleet management studies for cities, counties, state, and federal agencies. I stay very much out of the private sector. We like to, really look at what the government sector does. Over the course of time, I've done about 146 public works type facilities across the United States and Canada. The one you're looking at behind me is one of my most recent, and that's the city of Sterling Heights, Michigan. And what we want to do is bring a facility that'll house your vehicle. It typically extends the life of vehicles by a year, which is very significant, especially in our kind of climate that we live. So we're going to be looking at your sign shop operation. We're going to be looking at the vehicles that need to be under roof, and also the vehicles that, how they're maintained in the vehicle maintenance shop. One of the requests we had from an earlier discussion with your sheriff is he is interested in maybe getting the vehicles maintained by the highway, and that would reduce cost. I think we can do some significant things for you. Most of your mechanics that are in regular garages are ASE certified. We want to bring it one step further, where it'd be emergency vehicle technicians. You don't find that on the exterior, with other garages and so forth. So that's something more specific to municipal operations. So that's the course we want to do. Right now I'm in Rockford, and I'm working for the Rockford Mass Transit District. We're looking at redesigning their entire bus maintenance facility as well. I also had involvement on the state facility that's out on State Street and 39. I worked with an architect in Chicago on that particular project too. So I'll be more than happy to answer any questions for you.
Is there any members out there that have any questions pertaining to this matter? And like I said, I will just add that this cost $34,500 is a budgeted item. And like I say, it's one of the first steps towards moving in the future for, design studies and things of that nature and what our needs are.
When would the study begin?
As soon as we're, get the contract in place and signed, we'll be starting up right away. So again, especially with me working right down here in Rockford, I probably do 2 days here and 2 days over there. So, but we'll move it along to get you, get you in shape. So.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Thompson.
You're welcome.
Mr. Thompson, if you could, just for myself, a couple of things I thought. I just had some very vague discussions with Mr. Molina regarding it. But at the end of your program, as far as what you would do for these funds, what do we get from that? Do we get, it takes a, 200,000 square foot building, it takes this many truck bays, it takes this, what does your services look like when you're done?
It's going to provide you with a footprint of the facility itself, any capital equipment that may be needed in there. I know we talked about a vehicle wash area, so there might be some things that we need in there, some pumps and motors and so forth. All of that will be in there. And then we're going to estimate the price of construction as well. So you'll have a good idea going in what it's going to cost you.
Does it give us any type of detail of what type of underground utilities would be necessary as far as storm, water upgrades, sanitary, grease traps, things of that nature?
Yes, we'll be looking for all of those items from you, but we'll be providing oil water separators in the system, stormwater, all of those kind of things that, affect the facility. So as far as the sheriff's department, we'll do a write-up on that saying, here's what you're paying now for your maintenance in the private sector, and here's what you should expect to do, if you do it in-house. So there should be savings associated with that. If not, why are we doing it? But we'll, review those areas and see what we can come up with.
Okay, thank you. Any board members, questions, comments on that item?
Just one.
Mr. Girl?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Thompson, how long do you figure from start to finish your task will take?
Maybe 2 months.
Maybe 2 months. Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
So I had just a quick point of clarification, please.
Yes, Ms. Fellers.
Does this include architectural drawings and plans for the building itself, or just an advice on what we should build or what we should plan for?
Now, we'll provide what you should be building, and we'll have an architectural rendering of what that'll look like.
But not the plans themselves.
No, not the plans themselves. There'll be a program plan, but not the actual architectural program itself.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and just for, because I've been through it a few times, just, I guess, Ms. Fellers, just, and other board members, just throwing out, you know, should the day come that we're gonna build a facility, it would take architectural engineering drawings to be submitted to the city of Rockford, or at least the county, I guess, if you're unincorporated over there, for their approval. So, and then, like I say, that's a long, lengthy process, and, you know, have to get all the detail on that.
Right, right. Like I said, we've done so many of these things that, you know, we really know pretty much what you will need. And I know Rockford has some very stringent items, but we'll be able to work with those people to get you along.
Yeah, and I'm guessing, Carlos, is your facility, is it city of Rockford or unincorporated county?
We are in the county.
Okay, yeah.
We are
And,
within the city of Rockford's planning. So we have to meet, a lot of guidelines as well.
Okay, and one second, and Mr. Roger Thompson, does what you're offering, does it give us some kind of dialed in cost factor of what, you know, what you present to us? Hey, this is what the cost factor would be?
Correct. We're going to give you a cost estimate based on what we see nationally. And we have a lot of experience in Wisconsin, Illinois, Michigan, so we should be able to get you some real accurate costs. We all know that costs have gone up a lot. Look at the cost of lumber, but just about everything is a little hard to get right now. But I think that's going to settle down, and I think our prices will come back down and get back more to normal.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Patrick Thompson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Nice to meet you, Roger. I came from St. Croix County, Wisconsin, up in Hudson, and one of the largest projects that we worked on while I was there was a new highway transportation facility for our highway department. And same situation, we had all of our equipment sitting outside for years. And one of the main reasons why that our board supported moving ahead with a construction of a new facility was to get all that equipment under a roof, and maintains the life of the equipment. It reduces liability for our employees that have to work outside and getting that equipment ready to move, on short notice in bad weather. And so kudos and hats off to Chairman Tassoni and Carlos and the committee for looking at this. I toured the facility with Carlos after I first started, and I think it's long overdue, and I'm in full support of this, and whatever I can do to help move the project along, I'm in.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Mr. Kelly.
Thank you, Chairman. Under roof is one thing, totally enclosed warm shelter is another.
Yes, sir. That's very true.
Yeah, it'll be a warm sheltered area. And one thing that we haven't even talked about yet is, you probably have heard that the internal combustion engine is limited on life. It's probably only going to be around for another 15 to 20 years. So manufacturers already are looking at hydrogen fuel cell tractor trailers, semi trucks, everything is going to be going that way, and to battery powered. That is just one more reason why you really need a facility to house that stuff, because of course the cost of those pieces of equipment are going to get more expensive.
Absolutely.
Just a
the other-
follow up, if I may.
Yes, Mr. Kelly, go ahead.
Yeah, My earliest days in life were on a farm. We had unheated buildings called machine sheds for housing equipment.
Correct, correct. I mean, if we have some opportunities for just cold storage, we're certainly going to do that. We're not going to build everything heated just because it needs to be heated. So we'll make sure when we go through that fleet that we'll determine what has to be in warm storage and what can be in cold storage. And those buildings could be attached to this, the cold storage buildings. It's just that we don't have heat inside of them. The other thing we can look at for you is to look and see, can we use waste oil burners to burn your waste oil to heat the facility? That's done in a lot of facilities. I have one in Chicago that I completed. It's a aerial truck manufacturer and installer, and their whole building is heated by waste oil.
Yep. All right, good stuff. Any other questions, comments on that item? Any other members? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the resolution is approved unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Our next item is Resolution 21-016. It's a resolution authorizing an intergovernmental agreement with the Village of Machesney Park and the City of Loves Park for cost sharing of the operation and maintenance of a stage stream gauge on the Rock River at Latham Road Bridge. It's a cost of $1,833.33 per year for a 5-year contract. I would so move. Seconded by Mr. Gurl and Mr. Kelly. Would you like to speak to this, Mr. Molina? Mr. McCarthy seconded or third as well.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Tassoni. Yeah, what this is an agreement with those two agencies, Machesney Park and Loves Park. Machesney Park is actually the lead agency. And just so you know, the both boards already have approved this. This is, we're paying a third for operating that stream gauge and at Latham Road Bridge over the Rock River. And what this gauge does is it provides information for the emergency personnel to make decisions when it comes to flooding, and provides data that can be used for predictions and things like that. In the past, this gauge has been in operation since 2002. And I know in the past, the Sheriff Department even participated in the cost of this. Now the City of Loves Park has been added. And again, this is, the cost for the county is $1,800 per year. And what this agreement does is it sets the price for 5 years with the U.S. Geological Survey. That's who Machesney Park has an agreement with. This is similar, if you remember a few months ago when we brought an agreement to the county board for the Kishwaukee River. The difference with that one was that the one of the Kishwaukee River, the county is paying for it. 100%.
Okay, yeah, and thank you, Mr. Molina. And yeah, and like I say, myself, like I say, there's some low-lying river areas within my district and some organizations here on the river that have a lot to do with the river and the Sheriff's Department, the dam and whatnot. And like I say, when it's coming to flood conditions or predictions, these river gauges provide a lot of information. Carlos, could you just tell me how many your office participates in? How many gauges?
We only participate in two, the Kishwaukee and then this one. But there is, I got a document here. There is about 6 in Winnebago County, and other agencies, pay for those.
Okay, thank you. Any board members have any questions, comments on the river gauge? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the resolution is approved. Moving on to other matters, Mr. Molina, do you have anything?
I do. A couple of things. We haven't had a Public Works Committee meeting since we had a meeting with the R1 the MPO. And just to inform you, our Riverside project was selected by the MPO to be funded, at a certain level, for federal funds. Now, this is a $15 to $20 million project. The MPO allotted 75% of the funds that they have in hand right now, and that's about $5.4 million that is geared towards this project. It gives us a starting point to start shooting for other funding, and including, but there's no guarantee, more funding coming from the MPO. The MPO gets about $3.2 million a year, and right now there is $7.8 million, in the bank. And when I say the bank, it is still controlled by the state, but it goes through the MPO. This is because it is a federally funded project, we have to follow all the federal requirements and state requirements, including phase 1 engineering, phase 2 engineering, environmentals. So it's a project that could take 3 years, 4 years before we actually go to construction. So there is an opportunity to pursue other funds, and we're doing that. It's just that there's no guaranteed. If we don't have enough money, we'll just have to do a portion of the project. But it is a good thing. We were selected. They allotted 75% of the funds to Winnebago County, and the 25% to a project in Belvedere.
Thank you. Just Carlos, if I could just add to that for a minute, just for the committee members. I'm not sure who travels or traverses Riverside out there towards Forest Hills and Alpine Road. We had a culvert problem here a year or two ago. We had to do emergency repairs, had road plates on it now, I believe, right? And it's just every spring and winter that passes is just going to heck on us. And right now, currently, I was out there the other day. They are, currently working on the Alpine, the bridge overpass there. But this project that's been needed for quite some time. We're trying to find funding sources, and we're getting some money together. But I had talked to Carlos just very, very shortly about, do we do just maybe 1.5 inches of bituminous pavement overlay just to put the road back in some type of, excuse me, but putting lipstick on a pig is somewhat what it'd be like. But it's going to get us through that maybe 3-year period, because right now, if we did nothing and we didn't even start the project for 3 or 4 years, the cost factor in maintenance and potholes and lawsuits and fender, tires blown and all that kind of stuff. It's been done on a few different areas I've known throughout my life here. Just 1.5 inches overlay to get us through the next 3 years plus, or to when we're actually working on it. So Carlos was going to do some investigating and come up with a cost factor and what that might look like. But it's like I say, it's just getting us by till we can afford and do the rest of it. Mr. Kelly.
I went over the bridge today. It's under construction.
Yeah, I seen that this weekend myself too.
Yeah.
So with that, go ahead, Mr. Molina, if you'd like to add to that.
We actually did do an estimate on that, quick Band-Aid, and we're thinking it's going to be in the neighborhood of $300,000, maybe $400,000. Depends on how much we do. So we're still studying that, and the sooner we do it, the better, because that way we'll get more life of it before we actually have to rip it apart, for the pre-construction project. But we are looking into it, and it's one of the things that if you're okay with it, we will include in the next budget year.
Yeah, and just if you could speak to Mr. Molina, if we had the money to do the job today, when do you think it would be completed?
Are you talking about the ultimate job or?
Yeah, the ribbon cutting. When would the ribbon cutting happen if we had the money to do it today? Start today.
If we had the money, again, it takes, for all the environmental phase 1, phase 2, it takes, 3 years, and then another year for construction. It could be 4 or 5 years before we can actually open it to traffic.
So, yeah, that's why we just started talking these preliminary talks about, maybe some kind of Band-Aid on there. That traffic out there's a lot of, I don't know if it's upwards of 20,000 cars a day, or more or less, but, it's in bad shape and needs a little something. Okay, carry on.
Yep. The next thing Mr. Cullen mentioned, and you as well, the Alpine Road Bridge is under construction. That's actually one of our projects, and it's a federally funded project, and the completion date is supposed to be around Thanksgiving this year. The Baxter Road project, as you all know about, is also underway. They've been working for a few weeks now, and we're hoping to have it completed sometime mid to late summer. The last thing that I had was just some of you know that Sherland and Burr Townships, when they had the elections, a few weeks ago, nobody ran for township commissioners at those two townships. We're having some issues already because when people have concerns, whether it is trash on those roads or any problems with the roads, we get the phone calls. Now, the township is still responsible for those roads. And by that, I mean the township board, and they are supposed to, to appoint somebody. It's just that right now they don't have anybody. We help them as much as we can, but just so you know, anything we do, we have to invoice them for. So before we go and do something, I want an assurance from somebody with the township that they will pay for the work that we do for them, because we are very busy, and sometimes the only way that we could do some of these things is during overtime. So just wanted to remind you and to keep you in the loop that there's still not a highway commissioner for those two townships, and I'm not sure what's happening as far as appointing somebody, but I don't think there's much interest. They really don't get paid much.
What Sherland and what other township, Carlos?
Burritt.
Oh, Sherland and Burritt.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I'm somewhat familiar with the smaller townships and things, particularly Owen, but they operate on a shoestring budget, the smaller townships, and it's somewhat of just a hobby of a job or something suitable for a retired guy or something of that nature. So does any members have any questions, comments on either the Riverside project, Alpine Road Bridge, or anything like that? Okay, seeing none. Myself, I don't have anything particular to talk about, but I see we have County Engineer Mr. Molina or Mr. Hodina online. Do you have anything to say to us, Frank?
As far as the garage, I went through this process with them, and it was one of the better things we did when I was city engineer in Moline. We built a $10 million facility, and his study cost us about $50,000 then. And what happened was we ended up putting all the fleet in an enterprise zone, and then all the other departments would essentially rent the vehicles. And it became so important that the fleet supervisor is now the public works director. And we ended up doing maintenance of other government entities, particularly the Arsenal Islands vehicles. And when it was all said and done, the building and all the improvements paid for itself in about 7 years with the money we saved on maintenance of vehicles and not buying more vehicles.
Yeah, and if I would say that any of the members on the committee, if you haven't had a chance to go out to the highway department give Carlos a call. He'll show you around. But like I say, I mean, I've known the place for my entire lifetime. And yeah, just, you know, it'd be like everything at your home. If you had everything in your basement, in your garage, just sitting out in the backyard. That's what it's kind of like. Okay, with that, any other questions, comments? Yes, Mr. Webster, go ahead.
Yes, question for Carlos. One is the annual open house where all these board members can come and see what we're talking about.
We, Mr. Webster, typically it's in the beginning of the spring, and because of COVID and all that, we just haven't had one in 2 years. But it's a good idea. I'm hoping that it's something that we can do again in the future. But any of you that wants to come and visit us at the Highway Department, just give me a call and we'll be happy to show you around.
All right,
Thank you, Carlos.
good deal. Any other questions, comments from any members? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll move.
Moved by Mr. Kennedy, second by Mr. Webster, Mr. Gurl, and Mr. McCarthy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, folks, have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Good night.
Good job.
See ya.
Thank you, David.
All right, Jimmy,
I
we'll see you.
appreciate it.
Yep.